My next guest tonight here on Punky's MixTape is joining me all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'd like everybody to welcome to the show Dustin Parlier, also known as Two Eyes Open. How we doing?
I'm doing well, Corey. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome to hear. Awesome to hear. For my mixtapers that may not be familiar, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Two Eyes Open.
My name's Dustin. I grew up in Boone, North Carolina, small little college town in the mountains, and no one really plays punk rock there at all, but that's what I grew up on. I fell in love with American Idiot and then Sum 41, and from there I was just hooked. So I've been playing music for, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years now, and I've been writing for the last 5 or 6, and was trying to find bandmates, but I couldn't find anyone super serious. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start doing it myself. And I did find someone on Reddit to help me with the drums, and put out my first single in February. So just putting out like pop punk, alternative rock. It's a little bit of Sum 41, Blink 182, but maybe a little bit of Linkin Park in there as well. So yeah, fun stuff.
Nice. That's awesome to hear. I mean, sometimes necessity is the mother of all invention. It really is.
It is, yeah. Like I kept finding myself having, excuses. I was like, well, I can't make this right now because I don't have a drummer. I can't make this right now because I need a bassist or whatever. And at some point, I was like, well, it's now or never. I need to do this, So.
That's awesome. And how long have you been doing it for now?
So I've been writing. My oldest Two Eyes Open song is actually from 2013, and that was the first one that I put out, Disregard, and it's been edited a whole lot since then. I would like to think I've gotten a little bit better, so it's been edited a lot since that original incarnation, but I've officially started with Disregard February of this year. So it's completely new to most people, but a lot of these songs are maybe 2-3 years old. So yeah, it's been cool.
That's really cool. Now, prior to all the lockdown and everything that's been going on in this crazy world, have you gotten a chance to actually go and play your music out to the world?
Not yet, unfortunately. I would love to. And I, it was right before the pandemic really became a thing, before we really knew how intense COVID was, that I started putting out ads for bandmates and then announcing that I had songs and all those things. And so I had a handful of people that were all gearing up to try to do this with me. And then we were in quarantine. So I've been doing some Zoom sessions, and I've got one guy in particular that I think I've got a guitarist. So, making the moves as I can, so.
Well, that's awesome. It's just in a slightly different way than you might have previously anticipated.
Yeah, for sure. I think, we're all making the most of the situation that we're in right now, and that's what's most important. And I'm just happy to be able to put out music that people actually seem to care about. So it's cool.
Well, it's definitely been making a buzz. I remember, we played a song of yours earlier in the year when we first started the show.
Yeah.
Here we are, full circle, end of the first season, bringing you in. So obviously, it's been a fairly interesting year for you, despite COVID. So how has this last year been for you?
Yeah, and I was going to say, I appreciate you putting me on because I think you guys were one of the first in-depth Twitch streams that I've been a part of. So that was really, really cool. But yeah, I think around that time was when I'd put out Face the Light. And yeah, now we're coming full circle. I've had 2 or 3 songs since then. Recently I had put out Good Gone Away around June or July, and my girlfriend and I had shot the music video ourselves, which was a really kind of special thing. It was completely low budget, but we shot it intentionally with VHS filters and stuff. So we were like, oh, it's aesthetic, but actually it was just iPhones and iMovie. So we did that, and that actually generated a pretty decent buzz. And then just recently I dropped Haunt, which is my angriest song ever. It was supposed to come out on Halloween, but we had a little bit of snafus and stuff with COVID and being able to get studio time and stuff like that. So now we've got that out, and it's actually gotten a lot of attention. Like Jarrett from Bowling for Soup likes it. So, I
which
mean, who
is
knew?
awesome. I saw that.
I was
And I was
blown
like, I'm
away.
just scrolling, and I was like, because I'd last year they were if they're Bowling for Soup is like in the last 10 bands that I've seen before the world ended. Like
Oh, really?
I saw them on tour with Real Big Fish and Nerf Herder,
Hmm.
and it was a blast.
That's
And
awesome.
that was like within, well, not this year, but last year. That was like of last year's shows that I went to. So I'm just scrolling, and I was just like, oh, it's Jared. I'm like, wait, this is a Two Eyes Open post. I'm like, what? And I was like, oh my god! And I watched it. I was like, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
did a friend send that off for you? How did that come to be?
Yeah, I have this one guy that he's super talented. His name's Jed, and he's like a bit of a super fan. He was the one that made me the pop figure that I had showed
Oh,
you. Yeah.
look at look at
And
Funko Dustin.
yeah, and I don't know how easy it is to see, but that's actually like the outfit that I'm wearing in the Good Gone Away music video, like my little tank top and the blue shorts. And it was a crazy phenomenon. He's become a really good friend of mine, and his birthday was the same day as Haunt, so I had mailed him out a Haunt T-shirt and everything, and like we had been keeping in contact. And then he was like, "I've got something for you too," and I was like, "It's not my birthday, but I mean, I guess we're close to Christmas, so let's do this." And then he hit me with that video, and I was really surprised. He had reached out to Jarrett on Cameo, and they're friends, so they could have done this like informally, but he wanted to pay something forward to Jarrett for taking his time and stuff, which was cool. And yeah, it was a really funny video. I didn't post the full thing online of everything that he said, but that last bit, it was touching, man. Like, um, I mean, they're kind of like Newfound Glory to me. They're one of those upper echelon bands that have had a lot of influence, and it's similar to Newfound Glory too. They have a lot of fun with what they do, and that is a big inspiration to me. And he's been speaking out about mental health and stuff. So to hear him say, even if he just said like, I didn't hate it, it was all right, that would be insane to me, let alone like telling me that he enjoyed it. So it was cool. I mean, coming from not doing it and like doubting myself and almost not even putting out music to how it is now in December, it's insane, man. It's insane.
And it's amazing. Like when you say like you're back, you're doubting yourself, you're questioning, you're having these inner battles with yourself. You're like, should I actually press forward? And you're like, you know what? Fuck it, I do. And then you get these little moments, these little
Yeah,
milestones along the way that just absolutely just reaffirm. And you're like, shit, I do have something to say. It is of value. It does have meaning, and it's good that other people are responding to this. You know,
yeah,
I mean, that's truly a beautiful thing when your art can connect to another person and actually make a true, earnest connection. And then,
yeah.
nevertheless, when that connection's Jared from Bowling for Soup, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's insane, man. I had gone through a phase, so like a lot of the songs that I really started writing with a band in mind was in like 2015, 2016. I was in sort of like a little trio. We never ended up playing shows. We were just kind of like a garage band. But some of those songs have made it out today, like Inconvenience, for example. And then we all kind of went our separate ways. Like people got married, people went to college, or they graduated college and moved, things like that. And I kind of lost sight of music for a while, and got this job where I was working 60 plus hours a week, and it was just very draining. And then finally, like, I decided like, let's restart. And I moved back to the coast with my parents for about 6 months while I tried to figure my life out. And then these songs just started like pouring out of me. And that was still 2018. That was still 2 years ago. So I was still like debating, wrestling with myself, like, is anybody going to care? And finally, like around like late 2019, I started recording and thinking like, let's make something of this. Like, you're either never going to know, or worst case scenario, people hate it, but at least you tried. You know what I mean? So that's like the biggest takeaway that I've had this year, because you don't know what to expect until you actually do it.
it's one of those things where you just kind of have to do it. You have to take the leap and just try.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm
And
sure that's how you felt with your show.
oh, absolutely. And and it's really it's trial and error. It's like get up every day, keep doing it. They'll what some would consider a failure, others will consider a learning lesson. But fall down. You're gonna fail. There's this.
Right.
Actually, I shared it recently, but it was a graduation ceremony with Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia as a
Yeah.
keynote speaker, and he's talking about the importance of failure. And it truly is. It is its own lesson. Some people they'll hit that first speed bump and then just stop because it's soul crushing, and like sometimes you need to fail. You need to stop and reevaluate what you're doing and then try again. That's how you become persistent. That's how you get better. You learn
It's
about
true.
constructive criticism in the world, and you learn to develop whatever it is that you are trying to develop. But it's
Right.
really important to learn from those moments and realize that you're going to fail. You're not always going to be what's considered successful, and success can be gauged in so many different ways. So it's awesome to hear that you were able to persevere throughout self-doubt and everything else and just try it, because here you are now, a little over a year later, you're sitting here on a TV show, talking about your art, your passion, your life. And if you just would have let self-doubt get the best of you, you wouldn't be in this spot today.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, who knows otherwise where I would have, might sound dramatic, but who knows where I would have been otherwise this year had I not done this, because I've made so many friends online through quarantine. And like, imagining myself if I was just sitting here still like toiling away and making these cell phone demos and not knowing what to do with it, not being a part of these groups that I've found. Like, most of my friends are these people in other bands now. I haven't been a huge part of the Charlotte scene yet, because like I said, I lived most of my life in Boone. I was in Richmond, Virginia for a little while and then came back. Um, and so really my scene is the scene that I found through quarantine of these groups. So I've got some of my best friends are in Connecticut or Philly or Jersey, Nashville, and like, all these people are all connected with each other through online, and part of that is due to quarantine. Like, and that's totally changed my life. Like, I'm talking to people I would have never met otherwise, and a lot of that is to do with just making that simple leap, putting out that song. Like, some of my stuff, it wasn't recorded super well. We were doing it all on our own and trying our best, but it's out there, and like, people like it, and one day I could revisit it, and that's always exciting. So it's super cool, man. It's super humbling, for sure.
That's awesome. And I know that feeling. I got friends that are in some very popular bands doing very well for themselves, people that I've played with,
Yeah.
and life changes, and, people have kids, become parents and so on. And I found myself in a very similar spot, but I'm like, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
What am I going to do? I mean, I'm my own solo musician, but with no shows, I was wondering what the fuck I'm going to do. Same with everybody else around me.
Yeah.
And I decided just to take the leap.
Right.
And then here we are now. I've had over 60 interviews this year. Like, it blows
That's
my
incredible.
mind.
That is
And
incredible.
I've met some truly amazing people, heard some music that I never would have heard of before, and all it was just taking a single step forward for myself. And for me, that's like one of the biggest things that I've gotten out of this year is perspective. And that actually kind of brings me to like my next question is, how have you been surviving COVID? But it's obviously by two eyes open. That's how you
Yeah.
get through this, obviously.
Yeah, it has helped a ton, especially like with my newest song. A lot of that anger that comes in that song is from just anger from the things that we've seen, that could be political, racial. I mean, we've seen a lot of things. There are a lot of things that we can be mad about, but it's helped me a lot, man. It's kept me busy. The thing about doing it DIY too, that was something that I didn't really expect, was how many different skills that you kind of have to bring to the table when you are truly doing it by yourself. I've done a few of my own, like, album artworks. I've done some of them. I've done pretty much all the marketing for it. And, my I got a marketing degree. It's back there on the wall, but I haven't used it for like anything, honestly. And I actually told my mom just the other day, like, I'm actually using my degree now. It's just for a band, you know. And then my biggest passion before I started doing music was I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a comic book artist, like so bad. And it was this thing where eventually I hit a crossroads where I was like, okay, well, do I think I could do music better or art better? And I started going more down the musical route. But now I'm finding like, as stupid as it sounds, like photoshopping some stuff together on Instagram, it kind of brings back that feeling. So I'm like getting all these little tidbits of things that like used to inspire me as a kid, and I'm doing that, and so I'm doing these like by day I'm auditing, like I'm looking at papers, and it's not that fun, and then it's like by night I like put on my superhero cape and I'm like doing whatever the fuck I wanted to do like when I was a kid, and that's cool, man, and it's very rewarding for sure. So
Well, there's a freedom to all of it. While yes, it is an overwhelming task in order
mhm.
to compartmentalize all of these things into manageable piles each and every single day, and actually getting at a place of moving any of this stuff around in order to be, even somewhat semblance of successful or even organized. It's not easy, but you said you gotta be a graphic designer, you gotta be a marketer, you gotta be advertising. It's video production work and camera operating and editing, and then you're learning how to engineer, and then nevertheless actually creating the product that you're trying
Right.
to put out there in the first place.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
if I could relate, if anyone can relate to that, I absolutely can, 100%. And it's not easy, but you said you put on your superhero cape because it's like the true version of you, and you feel so good doing this. I have not felt this mentally positive in like 5-10 years. Like
Yeah.
it's really like just recharged me as a human being, being able to do the things that I love and meet so many interesting people along the way.
Yeah, and that's how you know it's good for you. Like I did a Q&A with New Fury Media recently, and like one of the things that I said, they were asking me, like what makes you motivated to do music every day or to write or whatever it is. And I was telling them that like I felt like when I started doing Two Eyes Open, I made promises to two groups of people, or like two entities, and it sounds super corny, but one of them was like to anyone who becomes a fan, like I don't want to let them down. I want to make something there, and I don't mean this in like a negative way of like I feel a pressure, but it helps me stay accountable. It helps me like put out something um that I'm confident in it, taking the time to make that good. And then the other thing was the little like 10-year-old in me. I don't want to let that person down too. Like I want that if I was able to come back to my 10-year-old self and show him what I'm doing now, I would want his, eyes to widen and be like, wow, like that's what it's all about. And like, I think holding on to that part of you that's a child, like that like innate like curiosity and all that stuff, that's a lot of what I feel like I'm coming back to. And that's really cool. And it's probably given me a few more years. Like it's got to be good for me, as good as it feels. So
And that's awesome. And I like that, like being also accountable to yourself, which is true. Because obviously if you we all had this idea.
yeah.
Cue my Nick Fury voice. We had a principle.
Yeah.
It was, but if your younger self could see you now, what do you think they would say to you?
um I would probably, honestly, like knowing me, I would ask if I could like touch the guitar first, probably. But but yeah, just like, and at the time I was into artwork, so showing the artwork off and all the different things, like just showing everything that, and if I could talk to myself, I would say, you're going to go through some hard times. You're going to do you, and depending on how much time I have, I might get into some specifics. You're going to deal with some things, try to get, but at the end of the road, you're going to struggle for this specific set of time in college, but when you get out, like you're going to be doing something that you're really proud of, and I'm still figuring out where that's going to take me, but that's part of the fun of it, you know. So I just, yeah, it's a humbling experience, man.
It really is. I think if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I think the first thing I'd notice would be like, that's a pretty sweet beard. I mean, like, but I mean, like, you got a little chunky, Punky.
Yeah, that's me
And I mean,
too,
like,
man.
you know what? I'd rather have a couple lbs on me and be super happy than be as miserable as I was before. You know,
Yeah,
so.
more to love.
But I kid. I honestly I think about that too, and I think the 10-year-old version of me would think I'm pretty fucking cool if I do say so myself. I mean,
Yeah,
that guy. If I turn into that guy, that's okay. I'm all right with that.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, honestly, that's what it's all about. Like, I think if you, it sounds like to me that, you know, when you were a kid, you were probably like a dreamer, like you're always thinking of things or scenarios. Like I was really big into action figures and I was obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. So I was always like coming up with all these like subplots of my own, you know, and everything like that. So that creativity is all channeled back into this where like, you know, in the future, one of my favorite movies is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, right? So the Jim Carrey movie. It's a classic. Actually might be my favorite, you know. If I want to write a song about that, I can. And that's another cool thing about being a solo artist. If I want to make artwork that references something that I'm passionate about, I can. Like with Haunt, I didn't explicitly say it, but it's pretty obvious that in the behind the closet door is Haunter, like the Pokemon, you know. That's pretty cool, man. You know, it's just like there's a lot of things that you can do. There's lots of different ways you can express yourself. You leave like all these little footnotes and kind of clues behind as to who you are as a person, even with the smallest things. So it's cool.
I I totally agree. And honestly, like you nailed it. I was a big daydreamer. I was actually talking about this with my dad earlier today on how I like a really hard time like differentiating between like reality and fantasy as a kid. And I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very into my own head. I
Hmm.
was one of those little spacey little like, hey, you with us? Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
I'm here. You know,
yeah,
like literally like a backpack filled with books that I couldn't carry home from school from the library. You know, things like
yeah.
that. Also, knee deep into my action figures. If you couldn't
Hmm.
tell, there's
Yeah.
actually still some of at least yeah, Bulb is one of my oldest figures right there.
And that one is sick.
Yeah.
It is so sick.
But for me, it was like, you know, like the X-Men and stuff like that. You know, Star Wars,
Mhm.
friggin' Battletoads, fucking biker bikes from Mars. You know,
Battletoads is so awesome.
Street Sharks. Street Sharks was a thing. Like
Yeah.
people forget about that. You know, another thing is I would probably, if I could tell myself like anything, like if I could go back and tell myself something, I'd be like, hey, one day the stories that you love are gonna make the most money in the fucking
I
universe.
know. I know. Like,
Bide your time. All the wedgies, all the comics getting slapped out of your hands, all the stupid, horrible, degrading things I've ever been called for reading and reading comic books and things like that. It's all gonna be justified. It's all going to be justified the second that like Iron Man becomes one of the biggest movies in the world. Same
yep.
with Christopher Nolan's Batman Dark Knight trilogy. You know, like things that like people when I was a kid in the 90s, people would not think would be the biggest movies of this generation. So I'd definitely be like, hold tight, buddy, because the
Yeah.
MCU is coming.
Yeah, that's honestly a really good suggestion. Like if I could talk to my younger self, that's true because you would keep your you know all your shit hidden because you felt like a nerd. Like my people in my family, like my grandma, thought I was so weird because I would like be with action figures or whatever it was. And then now this stuff is so it is cool. Like in Stranger Things, they're playing D&D, and now I feel like more and more people that I'm like around my little universe, they all play D&D and stuff, and now I'm like the odd one that hasn't really jumped into it besides one or two games, you know. So
Me too, because I got this from my better half for being such a good DM.
that's awesome.
I
And
think we've
I
got
feel like you would be. I feel like you would be.
we have fun. We got to think 11 all together for people that we campaign with, but we got 4 in our main group, and then we have another group of 4 that's kind of our B team, if you
Okay.
will.
Yeah.
What we call Bad Company and Plus Ultra.
Dude. Okay. Since you said Plus Ultra, and since we're talking about action figures,
Oh, what's up,
Yeah.
All Might? Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
I had we went and saw at the Rhode Island State Comic Con last year. They had a big My Hero panel of
That's
the
awesome.
American voice actors. So like, I think Chris Sabat,
Chris,
yeah, that's his last name. Yeah, like
Piccolo.
So Chris was there, and obviously Colleen Clinkenbeard, who's like the voice of Luffy and Lilith in Borderlands. Like, got to meet her. Like, I'm a huge One Piece fan. That was huge for me, you know. And that's one thing that I'm like, you know, when I was a kid and stuff, like, you know, like conventions, they weren't what they are now.
Right. Yeah.
They were like in, you know, what dirt malls and, you know, in some random, you know, abandoned building that got rented out for a weekend. And now they're like the biggest thing in the world. And that's one of the things I miss the most is going to conventions, because it's such a big part of my life is cosplay.
Mhm.
So
yeah, and that's something that I've missed out on. I haven't been able to do conventions and stuff yet, and now like sitting in quarantine, I'm like, man, I would really love to do that, or like nom, you know, going to like the music conventions and things like that, because it is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. Like I just discovered, like I'm behind on all kinds of things, but like My Hero Academia honestly is something that got me through quarantine. If you want to talk about something that helped a lot, you know, I literally got that All Might statue because he you know, he inspires me, you know. And I'm kind of like there's this movie called Jeff Who Lives at Home. The main actor, he like believes in signs, so like anytime he sees something, he's like, oh, it's a sign, and he'll go like chase it to the ends of the earth. Well, I walked in the GameStop, that statue was the first thing I saw, and that was what I was thinking about, and I was like, well, I just fucking manifested that, so I've got to buy it now, you know. So
that's awesome, and that's also a really good movie too. That is a really good movie.
It is. I'm glad you've actually seen it. Almost no one knows what it is.
Oh man, that's got oh my god, I'm totally
Ed
brain
Helms
on his name.
Ed Helms.
Ed Helms, thank you.
Yeah.
I almost said Ed O'Neill, and that's the guy from Married with Children. I was like, it's Ed. Yeah. That is actually a really good movie. You threw me off with that. So,
sorry.
No, in a great way, in the most amazing way. That's what I love about this. It's just life's little curveballs. So you're in Charlotte. You're not too far. How far are you from Atlanta?
Yeah, it's about 2 hours, depending on, you know, like I'm in a long distance relationship, so sometimes it makes more sense to go down to Atlanta because the plane tickets are cheaper.
Well,
so, yeah.
One word, Dragon Con. When things open up again, you got to go treat yourself. It's one of the biggest conventions in the U.S. That's not like, you know, New York City or San Diego. Like Dragon Con, I hear nothing but good things. That's a little punky suggestion to you.
I'll write that down. Yeah,
it's amazing. You'll be right at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
So obviously, so diving into some anime, staying positive during the quarantine. Anything else that you've been doing to maintain positivity?
So I do try to meditate, especially like whenever anxiety sort of ramps up. Talking to people, you know, I think that's a really underrated thing. A lot of people get caught in their own routines, and they realize like, shit, I haven't talked to so-and-so in like 8 months. So I've been trying to hit people up that I know would love to hear from me, but they would have maybe never thought to just call me randomly. You know, that's been cool. My dog helps a lot. She's outside the room right now because if she was in here, she'd be whining since I'm not paying attention to her, but she helps a whole lot. Her name's Evie, and she's precious. You know, I live with my best friend, so that helps a lot too. Me and him have known each other since like kindergarten, so that's been really cool.
So Evie, like the Pokemon?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was hoping so. I was hoping that's the correct answer.
Yeah.
Where is she? Nah, just get her real quick. It'll be fine.
Yeah. You can't catch another trainer's Pokemon though, so.
I could try.
Yeah.
I can try.
But yeah, music has helped a lot too, man. Not only does it keep me busy, but it's keeping me motivated towards something in the future. And I've got some future plans laid out that for 2021 that I've been getting excited about. So yeah, lots of things,
Anything that
man.
you could share with us?
Um, so I don't know for sure if I'm going to stay to a strict schedule, but I am aiming to try to get at least like a song out every month or like a release out every single month. So that'll be big for me because I've had, some 2-3 month breaks or whatever, but I'm wanting to hit it harder this year.
That's awesome. So this is only a recent question that I've had, but if you had to have any aspirations for 2021, take COVID and just push it away because we all want a COVID-free world. That's
Yeah,
an easy answer. I don't want that answer. You got
yeah.
any aspiration for 2021 that you just truly hope comes around and comes to fruition?
Yeah, so I have a lot of things. Some personal stuff. My girlfriend, we've been long distance for 2 years. So having her finally come down to Charlotte and us living together and figuring that out is a huge, huge thing for me. Not music related, not Two Eyes Open related, but that's the first thing I gotta say. And then um and when it comes to Two Eyes Open, because that's like my other mistress, I would say I would say you know, I would like to have a band together. I would like to have some people that are, as passionate about it as me, or at least believe in me enough to just follow along and let's go do some shows. And if I were to say, let's say all that comes together, then the next thing would be to open up for one of my heroes. Like that would be insane. And there's a long list of people that could make me happy to open for, but just being a part of that and having the chance to meet them, feel or like hearing someone sing my own songs, like any of that stuff would be absolutely insane because I've not had any of those experiences yet. So more than numbers, more than streams, like followers, whatever, like that would be absolutely insane for me.
Those are experiences, and like those everything those are analytics, and like success is not analytics. I mean, I've seen plenty of bands that got great numbers, but they don't get the heart, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's the thing. Especially over the last year, I don't think I've listened to as much music in the last year as I had, say, 5 years before it. And I'm a DJ and a musician. I listen to music all the time, but like this
right.
past 8-9 months, I've heard of more bands than I can possibly name,
Yeah,
which is surreal upon itself, you know.
yeah.
So
Like I was just gonna say, depending on you were talking about perspective earlier. If you want to look in a positive light, one good thing about quarantine is the arts in general, movies, um, streaming, all those things, music, artwork. That's all flourished because this is the kind of stuff that people rely on to get them through during times like these. So
well, I
it's
think
cool.
so, and I think as in a strange way, there is this almost, I don't know whatever word to call it, but a COVID renaissance, if you will.
Yeah.
It's been this massive shift mentally in people where they've been forced to reprioritize. Just like
Hmm.
you were talking about what you did back in 2018, you were like, you know what, I need to reevaluate what I'm doing. I'm going to move back home to the coast with my family, figure out some shit, and get myself back on my feet where I feel comfortable again. You did that before all of this happened. And then so many of us were in that very comparable spot. So everybody
Right.
had to figure out what was important to them, reprioritize, their values, their morality, you know, their
Yeah.
their personal ethics, what they want out of the world, their goals, their relationships, every aspect. You had to think about, from everything, and then so much that you couldn't even fathom beforehand. Like I find myself thinking about where I was before all of this, and just mentally where I was, not a good place, being angry, acting out. I know this guy, this sweet put him. I could be an asshole, especially when the cards got you down. It's hard,
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a renaissance. It's given me a chance to reevaluate everything and reinvest into myself, into my art, what I was doing.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to see, as we already are, we're already seeing the cause and effect of the downtime in people's art. Nevertheless, the amazing local artists, or independent, unsigned artists, whatever you want to call them, wherever you are in the world watching this, we've already seen that tenfold amazing DIY albums being put out. Folks like you and Taking on Water, friggin' the boys in like Pull the Curtain and Early Retirement and 20 something and The Long Ear and so many amazing bands, all just
Yeah.
in the US alone. We're all doing it. But nevertheless, like some of the bands that I love, like one of my favorite bands, Every Time I Die, just put out 2 new singles, and it's like some of the best work they've done in years.
Yeah.
So it's
Or like System of a Down coming out of the woodwork, suddenly putting
out
out
of
songs. Like,
nowhere.
yeah, it's
Like they hadn't
crazy.
released a song since I was in college,
Yeah.
since
Yeah.
Hypnotize and Mesmerize, and that was a long fucking time ago.
Yeah. And they had something to say too. I mean, it is really cool, and I'm glad, and I'm thankful that that I like I said, there's been this community that started to form. Some of those bands, I'm like, I actually know some of those guys. Like I know the guys in Pull the Curtain, I know the guys in 20 something, and that's another thing that's been cool too. So I feel like if you've got an interest of some sort, there's one of the benefits of us being on online so much is you can start forming communities around those things, and you can start finding people that might be more passionate about it than the person who lives next door to you or your best friend or whatever that doesn't really listen to your music. It's been really cool, and I think the COVID renaissance is a good word for it, because there are a lot of cool things that are happening. I'm seeing more and more visual artists popping up asking like, hey, I can do merch, I can do, people are hungry, and that's really cool. It's really cool because through these hard times, like this is the stuff that's going to get people out of it. So
And it's amazing just to see the human spirit in its way to triumph over adversity. Like,
mhm.
yeah, like in this moment with COVID, when the numbers started stacking up, for me, I felt really small and minuscule in this world that just got much bigger. But
Right.
then doing this, connecting with more people from all around the world and finding a commonality through music of all genres, it made the world a little bit smaller again, a little bit
Yeah.
more closer. We didn't have to keep our distance like we have to in person. We can actually connect and emote and do this in a safe manner without fear of reprisal and your health and everything else. And
Mhm.
for me, it brought a semblance of normalcy again, which it was needed more than anything. You know, and
Right.
and I think that, and I'm not the only one. And there's tons. It's been a shift all over. People, young and old alike, are using this amazing platform to connect, to build up, to show equality, progressiveness, and a kind heart towards everybody. So it's amazing, like I said, the way that the human spirit has been able to triumph over all this adversity.
Yeah, it's definitely caused a shift, like in my own mindset and my own perspective on things. Like you said, like everyone's heard of the person that overworks themselves, and now they like come home and they're like, man, I've not really been paying attention to my kids or whatever. But another thing that has shifted in my mind is my perception on social media. I had such a cynical perception of social media and the effects that it has on people, and I do think there are some negative aspects to social media, but again, it's one of those things that right now it's what's helping people stay connected. And had it not been for that, I wouldn't know you. I wouldn't know like any of the people that I actually talk to like pretty much every day now. So I think anytime that there is adversity, there is something to be thankful for, and there's something to strive forward towards. So it's been an interesting journey.
It has, and I can only hope what, while albeit the situation here in the United States is not a good one when it comes to that, but I'd like to think that individuals will be able to do the right thing. They'll be able to step forward, and that this will soon be a distant memory. You know,
Hmm.
I'd
Yeah.
I'd like to think that, and I think I'm able to do so. For me, I've always been very cynical, very sarcastic, and honestly, these types of connections have given me hope towards the larger scale
Yeah.
of things. It's like I said, the world becomes a little bit more smaller instead of, feeling like, oh, I'm talking to somebody, all the way in Charlotte. I literally feel like I'm talking to somebody next door, and we're in a community now. We're in a neighborhood. I like
Right.
that. And that's the thing is, I've belonged to plenty of different communities on the internet and stuff, but it hasn't been really to this last year where it actually had some true semblance of a family, minus like the Dungeons and Dragons circles that I keep, because that's one thing. And like the super geek cosplay culture, there's nothing but love there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as the music communities come, I think, like I said, this renaissance has happened. I think the genre elitist, like they're starting to die off because they're realizing that you need to be able to connect, not necessarily appeal, but connect to a wide audience.
Mhm.
There's an absolute way to, in order to market yourself, get yourself out there while still introducing somebody to something new.
Right.
And that's the important thing. It's like, yeah, you could be doing this one really niche thing and trying to appeal to a really small niche audience, or you can try to think about how you could market yourself towards all people, to be inclusive of everybody, and then just show them that niche thing that you're doing, and they're either going to be into it or not, but at least you have a broader audience to at least test and try things out on. It's
Yeah.
worth a shot. And
Yeah, I think barriers are breaking down there for sure. I mean, you've got like right now it's controversial still for sure, but Machine Gun Kelly has like the top pop punk record. Like that's hitting charts. That makes me happy. Like that's cool because and before that it was 2001, right? I mean, that was probably the last time that we had some really crazy representation there. Miley Cyrus is doing really well, and I have a lot of respect for her. She slayed this cover of Temple of the Dog, which is not easy. I mean, she played with them,
yeah,
and they killed it. Like, um, you've got, I mean, Bring Me the Horizon is always breaking down boundaries, but with their newest EP, I mean, there are a lot of things that are making it in those big mainstream arenas, and I think that's trickling down now. So like a big thing, something, okay, I'll give a little bit of a hint of like one of the things I want to do this year. Like I've been really getting into like emo rap and like the pop punk like emo rap and how it meshes together. I've my one of my top artists was Juice World. Another one was Little Lotus and things like that. So I'm thinking about doing some. I'm not going to just jump into it full fledged because I can't make beats. Like I'm not a rapper. Like I'm, you know, but I think I can set that atmosphere, and I've got some friends who are already kind of in it. So I'm thinking like, why don't I make some songs with them, and adopting sort of that the rap, pop, and electronic mindset of like collaborating with people. So I'm hoping to do a bunch of collaborations this year. I
you're
think
you're you're talking my language because I fit a lot of those criteria. So not only did I play in like deathcore and metal and hardcore and punk bands for years, but
yeah.
Punky Bruiser is my stage name for electronic music because I pro out my DJ gear real quick. There
Yeah.
we go. But if you're looking for beats, call me Dwight Schrute.
Wow, that was amazing.
Call me Dwight Schrute the way that I beat beats.
That honestly got me. I love The Office so much, man.
Who doesn't? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, people in our like age demographic of anywhere from 20 to 40, you make an Office reference, it's like shooting fucking fish in a barrel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote a song a long time ago that like the vision I have in my head, if I can get away with it and not get sued, it would involve a sample of a scene from The Office, and I can't really say which one because that would give away a lot about the song itself. But I saw that Billie Eilish got away with it, and she didn't ask permission. I'm not Billie Eilish, but
No,
maybe one day I could get away with it. Because I love The Office too,
no, you
man.
don't see. You're not Billie Eilish. You're not really such a bad guy.
No,
That was a little forced, but that's okay. Is it the chili episode? Is it just a sample of the chili falling on the carpet? Because I'd listen to that.
that yeah, that's the snare.
It's just
That's the
it's
snare.
just the sound of like of Kevin just scooping chili back into a butt. Oh no!
My
Oh,
favorite Kevin moment, it's so stupid, but it's when they don't have any receptionists on deck, and so they make Kevin the receptionist for, I would assume, probably 10 minutes because he's terrible. And this woman walks in and he just screams across the office like, "Michael, it's a girl." And I feel like that would be great before a breakdown. I think that would be sick.
oh, that would be great. Oh
Yeah,
man, I had the awesome privilege of seeing Creed live, not the band, but the individual, and
that's awesome.
because
And he's
he was a
talented.
famous folk singer before the show,
Yeah.
and obviously we know from the Office finale that incredibly beautiful song that he sings that was actually from his old band, and I saw them at Port City in Portland, Maine, do it in like an entire sold out house, like all singing it together, every single person crying
Oh
with
man.
strangers, and like through mutual office love. It was like one of the most beautiful experiences of my adult life. It was something else.
I bet, man. I've had two experiences like that. The first one was Mike Shinoda. I got to see him doing the post-traumatic tour, and of course, like playing anything that would have had Chester's voice on it had he still been around. That brought people together in a way that I've never seen. And then also, I'm a really big fan of John Bellion. He's like a pop artist. He kind of does like pop and rap, but when he plays live, he remixes all of his songs and turns them into like these full band kind of scenarios. And for me and my friends, that was like a really big moment. But I think with Mike Shinoda, it's one of those universal things, kind of like you were saying with Creed, where um, I mean, everybody's identifying with the history of everything that Mike's done, and like how in his bands and the projects that he's been a part of, like everybody everywhere was crying, like everybody was together, and that was cool. That's the togetherness that you're talking about. That's the kind of feeling that I'm saying that I'm wanting to feel a fraction of that feeling, as my 2021 goal. That's what people are striving for, and then that is all human connection, what you're talking about earlier too. It's all
Absolutely.
tied together, and that's what the backbone, I think, of art and music and all that is. So
It's amazing when you can come together with absolute perfect strangers. Or for someone like me, keeps I enjoy my personal space, and but it was moments like that, like I don't give a shit. Like at a
yeah,
show like that, like I don't care. This is nothing but heart,
right.
and I can imagine, especially if you saw like Shinoda like after Chester's passing and stuff. Of course, that's gonna like hit hard. I've not seen any of those members since beforehand. It was actually quite a few. God, I think the last time I ever saw Linkin Park live was with the Deftones. It was a very
I never,
interesting show.
I
Pretty
never
much
got.
like, if the Deftones are playing, I'm there. I'm a huge Deftones fan.
Yeah, I've gathered that from our conversation, before we went live. And I've never gotten to see Linkin Park, so unfortunately, I didn't really get to have that experience. Another one kind of like